The sun was already brutal by mid-morning, pressing down on the pavement like an iron. Raya Thompson wiped the sweat from her forehead with the back of her hand and kept walking. Her old sneakers were worn thin at the soles, and the handle of her canvas bag was fraying at the edges. But she walked anyway, just a little further now. Her bike had given out the day before. The chain snapped near the gas station, and no matter how she tried, it would not hold. She had taken it as a sign. Maybe it was finally time. Not for anything fancy, just something safe, reliable, with working air conditioning. She had looked online for weeks, compared every local ad and listing, tried calling a few private sellers. But prices were up, and even a decent used car cost more than she hoped. Then she saw the listing. A high-end dealership on the edge of town. Not the kind of place she ever imagined walking into, but buried at the bottom of their site was one listing. Older inventory. Ask in store. And so she walked, nearly 3 miles in the heat, because sometimes you just hope for a little luck. The dealership looked like it belonged on a movie set. Glass walls, marble floors, air-conditioned like a hotel lobby. Everything inside gleamed. Even the coffee machine in the corner looked like it cost more than her rent. She adjusted her old sun hat and stepped inside, the cool air hitting her like a wave. A man in a crisp white shirt looked up from his desk. Slicked back hair, watch that caught the light. He did not smile. "Can I help you?" he asked, voice flat but sharp, like he already had somewhere else to be. Raya gave a small nod. "Yes, I was hoping to ask about your older used vehicles. Something reliable, under $15,000. There was a pause. Then came the smirk. "Under 15?" he repeated, like she had asked if they sold bicycles. "Ma'am, this is Harper & Hale Auto Group. The cheapest thing we sell is a $70,000 sedan. You might want to try down the road. There's a used lot by the Shell station." His eyes flicked to the door. Raya felt heat rise to her cheeks, not from the sun this time. She gripped the strap of her bag tighter, took a breath. "I understand," she said quietly, "but I figured it wouldn't hurt to ask." Behind him, a younger woman, maybe an intern, looked up from her laptop. Their eyes met for a second. She gave Raya the faintest apologetic smile, but the man just chuckled and turned his back. "Unbelievable," he muttered. "People really think they can just walk in here like that." Raya's shoulders tensed, but she didn't argue. She'd been raised better than that. She turned and walked out without another word. As the glass door closed behind her, the heat hit again, thicker now, heavier. Her eyes burned, but she blinked fast and kept walking. She did not know that someone had been watching. Someone who had just pulled into the far side of the parking lot. Someone who saw the entire thing through his windshield and did not forget it. Raya did not get far before her legs started to ache. The sidewalk shimmered under the heat, and every step felt heavier than the last. Her throat was dry. She had not thought to bring water. She had not expected to be out here this long. She found a shady spot under a tired-looking tree near the corner of the dealership's lot and sat down for a minute. Just a minute. Her hands rested in her lap, still holding the strap of her bag like it might slip away if she let go. She tried not to think about what had just happened, tried not to replay the look on the man's face, the tone in his voice, but it clung to her like the sweat on her skin, sharp, sticky, unwelcome. Raya had never cared much about appearances. She had always believed that people would see her heart before they saw her clothes. But lately that belief had been tested more times than she could count. Still, she shook it off. She had errands to run, a dinner to make, a quiet house waiting for her. She stood up slowly and started walking again. She had no idea that just a few minutes later, the man who had watched her from his car earlier, who had stayed silent while she was humiliated, was now pulling out of the lot behind her. But not to follow, to remember, because Caleb Thompson did not forget moments like that. By the time Raya got home, the house was warm and quiet. Afternoon light spilled across the hardwood floor. The air smelled faintly of lemon from the candle she always kept near the kitchen. She dropped her bag on the entryway bench, kicked off her shoes, and stood for a moment, letting the stillness wrap around her like a soft blanket. Then she turned toward the fridge, pulled out a pitcher of water, and drank slowly. She could feel her shoulders beginning to relax. The front door opened not long after. She heard the keys jingle, the soft click of leather shoes, the gentle thud of a suitcase, then a voice. "Hey honey, I'm home." Caleb stepped into the kitchen, tall and quiet as ever, his shirt a little wrinkled from the long drive back. He leaned in to kiss her cheek and paused. "You okay?" Raya hesitated. She thought about brushing it off, just saying she was tired, but something in his eyes stopped her. She sighed, set down her glass and nodded toward the table. "Sit, I'll tell you." And she did. She told him everything. The long walk, the heat, the man's smirk, the way her voice had started to shake even though she tried so hard to stay calm. She told him how small she felt, how invisible. Caleb did not interrupt. He listened the way he always did, with his full attention, like every word mattered. When she was done, he sat back in his chair, arms crossed, jaw tight. He said nothing for a while. Then softly, what was his name? She blinked. "Who?" "The man at the dealership." She hesitated. "I think it was Travis Hale." Caleb nodded once. "All right." She frowned. "Caleb, it's not worth it." His voice was quiet but certain. "Oh, I think it is." That night, Caleb did not bring it up again. He helped clean up after dinner, like always. He stacked the dishes carefully, rinsed the glasses, wiped down the counter the way Raya liked, and when she started to apologise for being quiet, for not cooking anything special, he just shook his head and kissed her temple. "You do not need to say sorry," he whispered, "ever." They sat together on the couch later, the TV playing something neither of them was really watching. Caleb rested one hand on her knee. Raya leaned her head against his shoulder, but her mind was still restless. She had never seen him angry, not truly. Caleb was steady, private. He never raised his voice, never made scenes. He had built his business that way too. Quiet confidence, smart investments, a small circle of people who trusted him, and for good reason. But tonight he seemed different. After she went to bed, Caleb stayed in the kitchen a little longer. He opened his laptop, pulled out a small notepad from his bag, and began writing something down. He did not move quickly. He was not planning revenge, he was making a decision. The next morning, Raya woke up to the smell of coffee. She found Caleb at the table, already dressed. A dark green button-up shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbows. Simple watch on his wrist. Hair still a little damp from the shower, calm, focused. "You're up early," she said softly. He looked up, smiled. "Could not sleep much." She poured herself a cup and leaned against the counter. "Do you have meetings today?" "One." He took a sip from his mug. "But not until later." She nodded. "All right." She thought maybe that was the end of it, that he had let the whole thing go, but she should have known better. Caleb did not forget moments like that. He remembered what it was like to be underestimated, to walk into rooms and feel the weight of other people's expectations pressing down before you even spoke. He remembered having to prove himself again and again, because of where he grew up, because of the way he dressed back then, because he had not gone to the right schools or shaken the right hands. He had worked too hard to build a life where no one could talk down to him or the people he loved. And now someone had looked at his wife, sized her up in 2 seconds, and decided she did not belong. That Caleb would not ignore. He sent one message before leaving the house. Short, simple, professional. "I'll be stopping by your dealership this morning. Please ask Travis Hale to be available. C. Thompson." The dealership opened at 10. By 10:15 the showroom was already humming. Espresso cups clinking on glass tables, conversations low and calculated, polished shoes tapping across the floor. Travis Hale was in his usual spot, leaning over a sleek black desk, trying to charm an older couple into upgrading from their leased sedan. He spoke fast, smiled big, dropped the word exclusive like confetti. But then he saw Mia walking toward him, eyes wide. "Travis," she said quietly, "there's someone here asking for you." He barely glanced up. "Tell them I'll be over in 5, I'm with clients." Mia hesitated. "It's Caleb Thompson." That made him pause. The name hit something in the back of his mind. He had heard it before. Newsletters, investment articles, real estate whispers. Caleb Thompson was not just a client. He was a name people watched, a name you wanted on your side. Travis cleared his throat, straightened his collar, and abandoned the couple without so much as a goodbye. When he stepped into the front lounge, he spotted the man immediately. Tall, relaxed posture. Not flashy, but every piece of his outfit looked like it had been tailored by someone who charged by the hour. No gold chains, no loud colours, just quiet, sharp presence. Caleb was standing by the reception desk, arms loosely crossed, looking around like he had all the time in the world. Travis moved fast. "Mr. Thompson, good morning, sir. It's an honour." Caleb looked at him for the first time. His expression was unreadable. "I hear you're the person to talk to," he said, voice calm. Travis laughed lightly. I'd like to think so. What are you in the market for today? We have a new Lucid Touring package that just came in, fully electric, top of the line. Or, if you're looking for something a little more exclusive, we just got a custom EQS that... I'm not here to browse, Caleb said. The air shifted. Travis's smile faltered. I am here, Caleb continued, because yesterday someone very important to me walked into this building and was treated like they did not belong. Travis blinked, his mind raced, then his face changed. You mean... Yes, Caleb nodded. My wife. There was silence. Mia, still nearby, froze. A few salespeople looked up from across the room, sensing something unfamiliar in the air, something they did not usually hear in this showroom. Accountability, Travis stammered. I had no idea, sir. I mean, if I had known who she was... That is the point, Caleb said gently but firmly. You did not know, and still you thought it was okay to laugh in her face. I did not mean anything by it, but you did, Caleb cut in. You made her feel small, on purpose, and you were not alone. You had an audience. You made a show of it. Travis looked around, as if someone might step in and save him. No one did. Caleb exhaled, his gaze steady. She told me not to come, said it was not worth the trouble, but I disagree. He turned toward the entry doors for a moment, just as they opened again, and in walked Raya. Raya did not like being the centre of attention. She never had. But as she stepped through those glass doors, the hum of the showroom seemed to dull, conversations paused, heads turned, and for a moment it felt like every pair of eyes was on her. Not because of what she was wearing, though the dress was beautiful. Caleb had laid it out that morning, soft blue silk that draped gently, with shoes to match, and a note that simply read, "Wear this, trust me." Not because of her hair, though it was pinned up loosely, just the way she liked it when she wanted to feel a little more put together. It was the way she walked. Still, steady, not proud, but not apologetic either. She met Caleb's eyes across the room. He gave the smallest nod. She came to stand beside him. He reached for her hand. Neither of them spoke. Travis, now visibly sweating, tried to recover. Mrs. Thompson, I had no idea. I mean, if you had told me who you were. Raya looked at him, and for the first time really saw him. Not as the man who embarrassed her, but just a man. A man who chose to be cruel when he could have chosen to be kind. She said quietly, "You did not need to know who I was. You just needed to treat me like a person." Her voice was calm, but it carried through the room like wind through glass. Travis's mouth opened, but no words came. Caleb turned to the dealership manager, a man in a tailored navy jacket who had arrived moments earlier, sensing something was unfolding beyond his control. "I came here to buy a car," Caleb said evenly. "I am ready to purchase your most exclusive vehicle. The EQS in the back room, fully loaded, custom finish." The manager brightened. "Of course, Mr. Thompson, we'd be honoured to..." "But," Caleb added, holding up a hand, "I have one condition." He turned toward Mia, the young woman from the day before, who had taken a step back when she saw Raya enter. She looked unsure, as if she did not belong in this conversation. "She gets the commission," Caleb said, nodding toward her. "She gets the sale." The room went still. Mia's eyes widened. "Wait, me?" Travis stepped forward, his voice rising just a little. "But sir, Caleb did not raise his voice. He simply said, "No, you turned your back on someone you thought was beneath you." She stayed silent, but she saw everything, and I saw her. He looked back at the manager. "If that is a problem, I can take my business elsewhere." The manager did not hesitate. "Not at all, sir." Travis stood frozen, like the wind had just gone out of him. Raya squeezed Caleb's hand just once. She leaned closer and whispered, "You did not have to go this far?" Caleb looked at her, his voice low. "Yes, I did." The manager acted quickly. He walked over to Mia, spoke in a tone loud enough for everyone to hear. "You'll handle Mr. Thompson's purchase," he said. "I'll have the paperwork brought to your desk." Mia blinked, almost in disbelief. "Are you sure?" He nodded. "You've earned it." Travis looked like he had just been punched in the gut. His voice cracked as he tried to speak. "Sir, I've been working here for 6 years." "And in 6 seconds," the manager said, turning to face him, "you almost cost us a 7-figure client. You know our values, you chose to ignore them. Nor, I didn't mean..." "That is the thing, Travis," Caleb said softly. "You did." Travis's shoulders slumped. For the first time, he looked small, not just embarrassed, but exposed. The confidence that had once filled the room now hung around his ankles, useless. "You can pack your things," the manager said firmly. "We'll send you your final check." There were no outbursts, no shouting, just silence. And then movement. Travis turned, walked slowly back toward his desk, head down. He did not make eye contact with anyone. Even the newer salespeople, those who usually looked up to him, avoided his gaze. Raya stood beside Caleb, quiet. She was not smiling. She did not enjoy watching someone fall. But part of her, a part she almost felt guilty for, felt something else. Relief, not because someone had been fired, but because just once someone like her had not been pushed aside. Someone like her had been seen. She glanced at Mia, who was now flipping nervously through a clipboard, trying to look professional while clearly still shaking. Raya walked over to her. "Hey," she said gently. Mia looked up. "I just wanted to say thank you for not laughing, for not joining in." Mia smiled, a little unsure. I wanted to say something yesterday. I just didn't know if I should." "You did enough," Raya said. "Sometimes it is enough just to see someone, really see them." Mia nodded. "I'll get everything ready for the paperwork." Back at the front, Caleb was already shaking hands with the manager, finalising the details. The luxury vehicle, a deep charcoal EQS with ivory interior, was already being prepped outside. The kind of car that turned heads on any street. But as far as Caleb was concerned, it was just a car. What mattered most was the principle behind the purchase. As he signed the final form, he glanced over his shoulder at his wife, talking to Mia, smiling now, just a little. He was not trying to make a statement. He just wanted to remind people, decency still matters. They drove off without saying much. The car was so smooth it barely made a sound, gliding past the dealership lot like it had nothing to prove. Raya sat in the passenger seat, one hand resting on her lap, the other gently tracing the edge of the armrest. Everything inside smelled like new leather and soft wood. Clean, crisp, luxurious. But she was not thinking about any of that. She was thinking about what it felt like to be seen, to be defended, to be loved so quietly but so fiercely. Caleb's eyes stayed on the road. His hands were steady on the wheel, his jaw relaxed, but she could tell he was still carrying the weight of the morning. After a few miles, she spoke. "You really did not have to do all that." "I know," he said, eyes still forward, "but I wanted to." She looked at him, studying the calm in his voice. "I just did not want to make a scene," she said softly. "I did not want people to think I needed rescuing." "You didn't," Caleb replied. "You stood your ground. You handled it better than I would have." She smiled faintly. "I cried after." He turned to her for a moment, just long enough to meet her eyes. "That does not make you weak." There was a pause. She let the words sit there between them. Then she said, "I still feel bad." "Why?" "For him, Travis. I mean, yes, he was awful, but losing a job, that is a big thing." Caleb nodded. "It is. Do you think we went too far?" He thought about that, then answered, "I think people like him don't learn from kindness. They learn from consequences." Raya looked back out the window, watching the trees blur past. "But I also think," Caleb added after a moment, "that someone like Mia, she needed to see that decency still matters. That standing quietly, even if you're not the loudest voice in the room, can lead to something good." That made her smile. Not a big smile, just a soft one, the kind that stays behind your eyes more than your mouth. She reached for his hand across the center console, and they drove like that, fingers intertwined, not needing to say much more. The world outside kept moving. But for a little while, inside that car, it felt like everything had slowed down enough to breathe again. Back at the dealership, Mia stood behind her desk, staring at the printed contract in front of her. Her hands were still a little shaky. Her heart had not quite settled into its normal rhythm. She had never closed a sale this big before. In fact, she had never closed any sale before, not officially. She was still just an intern, a college senior trying to build a resume, still figuring out how to speak up in rooms where people barely noticed she was there. But today someone had noticed. Today she had been handed a folder with her name on it. She had shaken hands with a client worth more than the entire dealership's monthly numbers. And she had watched one of the most arrogant people she had ever worked under walk out the door, while she stayed behind. She glanced across the room. Travis's desk sat empty now, his chair pushed in, monitor off, drawers slightly open like he had packed in a hurry. It felt strange, seeing that corner so still. He had been loud, always moving, always talking like he knew everything. And now he was gone. She let out a slow breath. The truth was, part of her had always wanted to say something, not just yesterday, but in general, about how he treated people, about the little jokes he made when clients left, about how he interrupted her in meetings and talked over anyone who wasn't wearing a Rolex. But she had not spoken up, not until today in her own quiet way. That mattered. The manager approached, holding a stack of paperwork and a cup of coffee he had clearly bought for her. "Nice work today," he said, setting the cup on her desk. "You held it together better than most of the senior staff." Mia gave a small smile. "I don't know about that." He leaned on the edge of the desk. "You know, we've been looking to expand the team, and after today, I think you've proven yourself more than enough." She blinked. "Wait, you mean?" "Official offer, full-time if you want it." She sat there for a second, stunned. No interviews, no hoops to jump through, no one asking her to be louder, bolder, tougher. Just an offer. Because someone had finally seen who she already was. "I'd like that," she said quietly, "very much." He nodded. "Good, welcome aboard." When he walked away, Mia looked out the dealership windows. She imagined the couple driving down the road in that quiet, beautiful car. She imagined what it must feel like, to be loved that way. Protected, not because you asked for it, but because someone believed you deserved it. And in that moment she promised herself something. Someday she would pay that kind of kindness forward. She did not know when, she did not know how, but she knew she would. Because kindness might not always come with grand gestures or headlines, but when it shows up, it changes everything. Travis Hale sat on a metal bench outside the used car lot across the highway. His shirt, once perfectly pressed, was now sticking to his back. The summer heat had no mercy out here, no tinted glass, no espresso machines, just faded flags fluttering in the wind, a broken vending machine humming nearby, and rows of cars with handwritten prices taped to their windshields. He had dropped off his resume 15 minutes ago. The man behind the desk barely looked up, asked if he had any prior sales experience, told him they might call if someone quit, then went back to eating a sandwich. Travis had nodded, said thank you, and walked out to sit in the sun. Now he watched the road. He could see the dealership from here. The one he used to call his house. He used to joke about it with clients, how he spent more time there than at home, how he could sell anything on wheels. People laughed. Some were even impressed. But no one was laughing now. He took off his sunglasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. Everything was too bright, too quiet. He thought about what Caleb had said. Not the part about being fired, but the part that stuck with him the most. You made her feel small, on purpose. At first, he had wanted to argue. Wanted to defend himself, say it was just a joke, say he had a rough morning, say she was probably used to being told no. But sitting here now, he knew better. She had not asked for anything crazy. She was polite, calm, clear. And he had still chosen to humiliate her. Not because she was rude, not because she deserved it, but because she looked like someone who could not push back. That was the truth. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees, head down. He had built a version of success that depended on keeping people beneath him. Now that he was on the other side of the desk, just another guy with a resume in hand and no one listening, it did not feel so clever anymore. A car honked across the road. He looked up and saw the charcoal Mercedes EQS pulling out of the dealership lot. The sunlight danced across the hood as it glided past. Inside, he could just barely make out two figures. Caleb focused on the road, and Raya leaning slightly toward the window, eyes soft, thoughtful, like she was seeing something beautiful and quiet just beyond the glass. Travis looked away. He was not angry at them. He was angry at himself for forgetting that the best kind of power was not loud. It was patient and kind, and it walked in with a canvas bag and an old sun hat, asking only to be treated like everyone else. A week passed. The car sat in the driveway, untouched most days. Caleb used it once to drive to a meeting downtown, then back again before dinner. Raya still preferred her walks to the grocery store, her morning bike rides around the block, now with a new chain and tyres Caleb had quietly replaced while she was out one afternoon. She never asked to drive the new car, not because she felt like she could not, but because she knew now, without question, that she did not need it to feel seen. One evening, they sat on the back porch together, sipping iced tea as the sun dipped behind the trees. The yard was quiet, crickets just starting to chirp. Caleb had kicked off his shoes. Raya had her feet curled up under her, a blanket across her lap even though the air was still warm. "I got a thank you email today," Caleb said, scrolling through his phone. "From the dealership manager, said they're revamping their customer experience policy." Raya raised an eyebrow. "Because of us?" "Because of you," he said, setting the phone down. "And because of what you didn't say." She smiled. "I didn't say a lot." "Exactly." They sat in silence for a while, the kind that feels full instead of empty. Then Raya spoke, almost to herself. I keep thinking about Mia. Caleb nodded. Me too. She reminded me of, well, me, a few years ago, soft-spoken, wanting to do the right thing but not sure how, and now she's got her shot. She earned it, he said. You helped her see that. Raya leaned her head on his shoulder. It's strange, isn't it? What is? How something small, just a moment, can change the course of a whole day, or a life. Caleb wrapped an arm around her. It's usually the small things that do. Down the street, a neighbour's dog barked. A light turned on in a kitchen window. Somewhere someone laughed. Life was still moving, and yet something had shifted. It was not about the car, or the money, or even the way Travis had been put in his place. It was about something deeper. The quiet belief that people deserve to be treated with dignity, no matter what they're wearing, no matter what they're buying, no matter who they are. Because true wealth, real wealth, was not parked in a driveway or worn on a wrist. It was found in the way you show up, in how you speak when no one important is watching, in what you choose to stand for when no one's asking you to. Raya looked out into the darkening sky, fingers laced with Caleb's, and she felt something she hadn't in a long time. Not pride, not victory, peace. Sometimes the most powerful moments are the quiet ones, not the ones where someone wins or loses, but the ones where someone is finally seen, where kindness is chosen, even when no one is watching. This wasn't a story about a fancy car. It was a story about respect, about dignity, about remembering that how we treat people, especially when we think no one's looking, might just be the loudest thing we ever say. And maybe that's the kind of wealth worth chasing. Thank you for staying with me until this very moment. If this story touched something in you, even just a little, I'd be deeply grateful if you'd leave a like, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to join more quiet, powerful moments like this one. Until next time, this is Rain Inside, where stories speak softly but stay with you.